So the publisher advisor is going to be Swati.
Okay, so just for your information, Swati Anwesha is a PhD student in literature in the Bass School. She was our publishing director during the pandemic. And one of the books she worked on, and I can't remember, she can explain it when you meet her. Anyway, she's agreed to work in the lab this summer as our publishing director.
So a little bit of what the book's about. It's about AI poetry, human poetry, and then being able to tell the difference between a combination of both of them. For book titles, we haven't worked out anything just yet. It's going to have something with the word AI in it, obviously. Whether if it's aristocrats, non-aristocrats, or if it's something like golden age. I'll get into that with the...
And that's at the bottom.
Yeah. So some of the goals about the book is that I've never published anything, and I want to do something interesting so that whenever I take my gap year, I have something to do, as well as whenever I enter my master's. I also want to be able to point at a book and say that I kind of published it and be able to talk about its content, because that's something that's just an achievement of mine, is just be able to say that I wrote that and be able to explain it, whether it's dinner talk or whatever. And then Roger wants to help build the reputation of the new OC4 ES Center. How a little bit about the book would be structured. Some of it would be primarily written in AI, using For the Heretic.
Herotic, I like that. Hey, herotic.
Okay.
No, I mean, that typo is really provocative.
I guess that's a spin-off AI.
Heretic and herotic. Oh my gosh. That would make a great poem.
For heretics, so we're gonna, some will be primarily written by the human co-authors. The idea is that you get 3 pages of 20 to 24 lines a page. So how it would look is the first page, second page, the back of the second page, and then there would be 1 page on the left side, sorry, the right side, that would then go into what the poem's about, things of that nature. The book, my idea about it was that it could go from the 1700s all the way to the 2000s, which with each poem going from different literature in that century to more modern literature as the book progresses. It'll be about 200 pages, with about 100 of it being written by AI, another 100 of it being written by human. So it would have an unusual layout structure similar to the Nexus, which is what Roger wanted to have it as for the layout.
No, that's the book, and it's somewhere around here, and I can't see it right now. But what was interesting about it is they had a lot of pages with illustrations with no captions, so you had to figure out what it was. The table of contents began at page 62, and so you didn't know what the first 60 pages of the book were about. But it was designed by a guy at the University of Northwestern in Michigan. And we could reach out to him and see if he could help us design the book.
So the target audience I don't believe we haven't really nailed down yet. However, with the poetry, it would be different characteristics of each age.
So the idea would be poetry to do with the Paleolithic age, the Mesolithic age, the Neolithic age, the Bronze Age. Keep going. The Iron Age, Classical Antiquity, the Medieval Age.
So basically, Roger wants to do all the ages, while I want to be constrained to a couple.
Renaissance, Industrial Age, keep going. Post-industrial, and now we're entering the AI age.
In this sense, though, it becomes more of like a historical novel.
That's what I was basically
Historical
saying,
poetry.
is that at a point it becomes historical poetry.
No, but you wouldn't tell people that this poem is typical of the Iron Age poetry.
Yeah, it would just slowly progress to
And then the style would evolve
Neolithic
to
to
contemporary styles.
contemporary to revolutionary.
Okay, we don't have to do this. That was my idea about 2 hours ago. Okay, so anybody have questions or critiques?
Very rough stage. Please
It was
critique.
actually very interesting because one of the things I'm doing for one of my classes is doing exactly what you're doing, but not with Friend and Heretic. And you can take a look at this book, Pharmaco AI by K. Aldo.
Doing exactly what we're doing. Crap, Roger. We need to think of a new
By
book.
who?
Aldo, is it K. Aldo? The book of, the name of the book is
Can you put
Pharmaco
that in the
AI.
list of references?
Yeah. What is it
So-
called?
Pharmaco, like pharmacy, Pharmaco AI. So this is where the author kind of wrote with GPT-3 or GPT-3, and so it's actually a novel. So he uses this fonts for sans serif. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. To write what he is writing, and then he will use the serif to write what the AI is writing. So it's more like a collaboration between the human and the machine kind of writing. It's very interesting. It's one of my cultural texts for my dissertation. So it's one of the projects I'm doing for my semester.
It's interesting that there's a distinction between the two texts, or the author makes an explicit distinction.
Yeah.
Whereas
So
here
you
it
should
seems
you should refer to that book. You have a lot of
You know the authors.
ideas. I think it's K. Aldo or something.
Is that the right book?
Yes. Oh no, Pharmaco, like Pharmako.
PHAR.
Mako. Yes.
Go on. Don't say sorry.
so is the base idea is to have an assortment of poetry. I heard the mention of the theme of like focusing on the distinguishment between AI poetry and human poetry.
Yeah.
But how does that play into like in the structure of a segment of the 4 pages, right? The 3 pages of poetry plus 1 page of analysis.
Yep.
Is that gonna be like 1.5 pages of AI, 1.5 pages of human poetry, and then
No. So one poem's gonna be all AI. Another
okay,
one's gonna be all human. However, we're not gonna tell you which one's which.
that one? So that's chosen essentially to the reader. That's arbitrary. Like it's unknown.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the end, what does that? Is there going to be a section of the book that's then
That explains
reviewing
it.
that, or
Yeah.
towards the end
Yeah.
or something?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Department chair announced that 2 PhD students have been expelled, one back to China and one to India, because they were accused of being criminals. And one of them, the student that was sent back to India, had got a speeding ticket driving his car on the freeway in Dallas, and that counted as a criminal offense. So they sent him back to India. So there was a lot of immigration anxiety in the room. The other thing that happened is they looked at all the admission numbers in physics over the last 10, 20 years, and they all took a dip during the pandemic, but then they started rising again. But last year they started dropping again. So there's a huge decline in the number of students taking physics in this country. And we don't know exactly what that's due to. And then the chair of the department is Mexican, and he expressed his anxiety and said, maybe I should find a job back in Mexico or in the European Union. And so we live in the real world, and Friday it was just a bit of a shock to the system. And normally in a physics retreat, you would talk about the future of science and discovering the unknown. And there was one piece of very depressing news. There's a famous professor in our physics department, I can't remember his name right now, who's a cosmologist, and he's discovered, as you probably know in astrophysics, we think the universe is expanding. They have now found evidence that the expansion is slowing down and the universe is going to collapse. And he said, don't worry, it'll be in 10 billion years. But I talk about a list of anxieties. The universe is going to collapse on us. Anyway, so that was sort of the first thing. So then I consulted my AI assistant, Fred the Heretic, to ask them what were emergent anxieties at UT Dallas at the moment. Economic uncertainty and job insecurity. Oh my God. Rapid advances in automation and AI and digital are raising concern about job displacement and the future of work. You mean the only jobs that will be left in 20 years are fixing the roads in Dallas, manual labor, because AI will do all the online labor. Cost of living and inflation, says AI, and we know the cost of eggs is going up. Polarization and social fragmentation. My God, AI, you know too much about us. Divisive politics, erosion of trust. Who was just saying out there in the gazebo that we'd lost trust? One of you expressed that anxiety. Declining trust in institutions, even scientific experts like me, driven by the spread of misinformation on social media. Environmental claim and climate anxiety, resource technological and transformation anxiety, privacy and data, social media, and part of me says this is just boring and routine. Why did I need AI to make this list? I could have made this list on my own.
Sure.
I think that's AI anxiety. Anxiety about mental health and well-being. Increasing number of Americans report anxiety, depression, and stress. I don't need to tell you the suicide rate on this campus is going up, coupled with a constant stream of digital information, blah, blah. Community isolation. People connect online but never meet face to face. How do you know how tall someone is if you only meet them online? Or what kind of shoes they wear? Does that matter? Well, Ryan has these fancy black shoes and I have my gym shoes on. Does that tell me something about me? Global, okay, no. So part of me really said AI is not very smart at predicting the future. So what's changed? Wars. We don't have any anxiety about war in this country. All the wars are outside the United States. World War I, World War II, well, they were outside the United States too. Post-digital transportation, data privacy, modern environment, blah, 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 blah. So I was interested in how anxieties had changed over the last 100 years. And not much, except the AI and digital anxiety. So, as I explained to you in the gazebo out there in the sunset, my current anxiety is, am I really American? I was born in France in 1950 with an English mother, an American military father. My grandparents were Czech and English. So is anybody American except the indigenous Indian population? They've been here for 10,000 years. We've only been here for a couple of hundred. At the time, the law stated I was American born and could be elected as president as the child of an American soldier. The law has since changed. If I were born now of an American father in France, could I now become president? Why do I care? I don't want to be president, but it's symbolic. But the current government is changing many laws that address immigration and nationality without discussion and just signing a piece of paper. Should I be worried and move back to France? Not now in 2020. Oh, I can't time travel. I meant 2030. I'm sorry. But no, but I can just feel the anxiety in my chest. What is a nation state and nationality? One nation state is traced back to Westphalia in 1648. China never had a nation state. It ended the 30 Years' War and established in territorial integrity and non-interference in the domestic affairs. After World War I, passports were invited. What? In 1900, nobody had a passport? So then I asked AI, tell me about the future. Since you can't tell me about the past, tell me about the future. Technological dominance in AI, super intelligent AI and autonomy. Okay, Flavia, be careful of what your career is. Human AI identity crisis. What's that? When you're online, how do you know if it's a chatbot or a human?
Oh, I thought that meant one day we're gonna have a crisis to where are we AI or are we human?
You can have children with AI.
What?
Have sex with AI.
AI dating bots.
There are AI dating bots.
Genetic engineering. It's funny, genetic engineering has kind of disappeared from the discussion in the last 10 years. 20 years ago, there was a lot of discussion about people modifying their genes so they only had male children in China. Wasn't that in China? And,
It's still going on though.
Oh, is it?
But
It's still
to
pretty
different
thin.
degrees, yeah. I think it's been kind of agreed, like, that there are ethical issues with, of course, like modifying those elements, but there's the practices for like
Genetic
removing-
improvement, removing genetic
removing,
diseases.
Like, genetic diseases and those things are still being discussed.
I don't want to live in that planet. Gen-formsetic modifications. I've never heard of that
I mean,
word.
if you think about it, it's been going on since,
2000.
well, I mean, like the 1940s, whenever you think about World War II and
Yeah.
Hitler and.
Well, no, that was eugenics, where you killed Jews and
No.
inferior people
No.
and handicapped people.
No. He would, they had these labs where they would purposely breed different people to get ideal genetics.
Yeah, eugenics.
Yeah.
Biological identity and diversity, new forms of discrimination. You know, it's not just male, female, and gay, it's now 1,000 different kinds of genders. Okay, so AI is foretelling the future, surveillance, privacy, lots of meaningful work. All I can tell you is my work here that your tuition pays for is very meaningful. Space exploration and cosmic risks. What is Elon Musk gonna do with the moon and Mars?
At this rate, I don't think he's doing anything.
Who will govern outer space? China? America? Not the United Nations. So,
We should make anime.
what?
Anime's the future, baby. Anime.
Well, no, I asked it to make a picture of anxiety without a human face, and that's what it came up with.
Looks like somebody had a black clover. I like it.
Well, I use Leonardo AI as the image generation software.
This isn't a rhetorical question, right?
Well, no. So, I've now expressed my anxieties about who I am. Am I American? Should I go back to leave the country right now? What's next on the agenda, Tina?
Topics on the students and faculties. University have a few slides there.
Okay.
So, emerging and finding among international faculty and students we just mentioned earlier. revisit the topic, and Belinda mentioned she also has some examples to share. Um, Currently, the policy change really generated a lot of concerns of both faculty and students among universities. Visa policy concerns, and etc. Housing finance, professional development, all these become big topics.
Okay, okay, go back. The professional development and career barriers wasn't on my list. So what is that? Anxiety?
Yeah, we can go details.
Oh, okay.
These are the top categories. We can talk about it one by one. Visa policies, concerns, and delays. So all students here in different majors, they were thinking about after I graduate, where do I go? And whether I'm gonna get hired. What's the H-1B policy? What's the OPT and STEM OPT policies? Now become shaky, and whether it's gonna be consistent or not, whether you can find an internship, whether you can be sponsored. So that's the biggest concern, I think, all the international students are worried about, and also even folks who are already in the workforce, whether they have to go back to the country.
Well, I think there are problems less with just, firstly, like just the overall, the word, like polarization of the bipartisan system is a huge issue, which was kind of shown by the recent elections. But also, I think all of the things that are going on now are completely removing the U.S. as like an important player in
International
dynamics.
affairs.
Yeah, a lot of the system studies they're dismantling are kind of things that were put in place from the perspective of the rest of the world unfairly, for the U.S. beneficial, but the U.S. is losing its position as something of like a big player in a lot of different things. So I feel like even after this has already started a whole cycle of things, the effects of which won't be seen for, or will continue to be seen for quite a while after. You know, it's like the start of an avalanche or something.
So you say that the United States of America is losing not quite superpower status, but it's going down to less of superpower.
You had things like the U.S. dollar was the reserve currency, and recently, you know, there was the whole decision to move away from that, which is devaluing the importance of the U.S. currency, which is the reason why a bunch of countries sold off U.S. bonds, which is the reason why the interest rates on the bonds went up instead of down with the recent stock crashes.
It was really
And that's all due to there being a lack of faith. Because the reason that someone would be willing to buy a bond at a lower price from a government is because that government is showing a good track record of paying their debts back and consistency and like stability, right? Like no one would buy bonds from like Greece when it's going through its economic turmoil because you know that it's not going to go well.
what you're saying.
So there's been shifts in prioritizing assets like gold or prioritizing bonds of like Swiss francs or something like that over the US. The US used to be the one. A lot of people are moving away from it now.
So essentially, foreshadow.
Yeah.
Some of the tariffs put in place, as soon as they went into effect, Japan started selling U.S. bonds like crazy. So as soon as they started selling U.S. bonds, Trump saw that and he decided to do a 90-day halt to redo the market a little
Yeah.
bit.
I think the problem is just the administration is showing that they don't have consistency in their policies. And that's not instilling faith in a lot of people everywhere. Because a lot of these decisions shouldn't be made overnight.
They don't
should be things
correlate.
that are planned,
Yeah.
you know, many months or years in advance.
Thanks, Dante. Any other comment on this?
Let's say on the delay specifically, just I'm currently in the process of trying to go with applications for a green card for my girlfriend or soon to be fiance.
Mhm.
In the last 3 months, the estimated time for a fiance visa has gone from, it was like 5 to 18 months was the estimated time period for when we apply for it to when she can get the visa. It's now gone to like 11 to 57 months. So,
So
and that's in like a 3-month period. Just because of all the delays in the visa offices, they're having to check more things, or they're taking a longer time per person, so it's just building up.
and that's impacting y'all's life directly,
Yeah,
so indirectly.
very much.
Yeah, I know one student who happens to be, he's actually a PhD student in economics. He had to go home to renew his visa, and he was delayed, and now he lost his funding because he couldn't make it on time to school.
That's
And
terrible.
so
And
he-
which program is this?
Economics.
Mhm.
And so now he's been forced to get a master's degree. So he's been issued a master's certificate, and now he's back in the US, but he can't come back to school. So now yes, because there's no funding, he lost admission because it's past the due date, and so he has.
Oh.
Though he was looking for PhD, now he's been awarded a master's certificate, and he has to now get a job. Oh my,
Wow.
this is terrible. It's terrible. So yeah, these are some of the issues, but we don't have a way out. So
Faculties, also international faculties, that be worried about their visa status, their funding, and their tenure, their research progress. And students under their instruction are going to be impacted too. So these are all these.
I think this is
Uncertainty.
one of the things why having faculties that are also international or where international students very important, because they have been able to go through the process and they know what it takes to get to where they are now, so they can help most of the international students go through that route. But if the faculty members are all, should I say, Americans and do not have the experience of what international students go through, it's quite difficult for them to help the students. So yeah.
So I wonder what's gonna happen to student admissions this fall in September.
Can go down?
I wonder what the data shows.
Oh, because that makes sense now. Starting to get it because student visas are going to be delayed, right?
Yes.
Well, already, it was already the case for foreign students that getting into UTP isn't an immediate, acceptance of the visa. You still have to wait for the visa to get accepted. So like, in the case of, they would review it and the guard or whoever's in charge of looking at it would say, well, if they don't think that you're coming on genuine reasons,
Yeah.
so there's a completely arbitrary chance that you just get denied despite getting into the university and getting funding or whatever already. And so I imagine, like with the person you were talking about, there's a lot of examples probably where they don't want to risk that, or they're like, why would I?
He is actually a student. Like he was in school. I think he was in his 3rd year.
Right. Oh, he was
Yeah,
already here, but
yeah.
even in the case hypothetically of like, let's say someone's applying for PhD, so they get all of the things sorted, and then they get the grant money, and then they are rejected from entering the U.S. And so then it's
Yeah.
you just spent all that time planning with no guarantee.
I think sometimes the dates to even go for visa interviews are even another hurdle to cross. Because a friend of mine also got admission to a school in California, but the visa dates for interview was like in 2 years' time.
Wow.
Yes. So she got admission last year and she kept searching for dates and she never got it. She had to kind of defer the course to this year. And up till now, she still haven't, like, she still not got a visa date for the interview. So she's like, well, I might as well just forget this whole school thing because even dates are not available. I don't know why.
Do you think that this whole scenario, justify the fact that we don't have summer jobs summer research opportunities during the summer, or just a coincidence?
Well, from what we are told is just a coincidence because then it's believed that the funding was awarded even before this current government, and so it has got nothing to do with its current situation. And I think it's because of the merging of the two schools.
Yes, because my anxiety is this today. What I'm gonna do during the summer. This is my main
I think it's
anxiety.
the anxiety of all of us.
Yes, because we're not able to find that job.
We won't be able to
And-
pay our bills.
Yes, we just can work during the summer. It's really difficult to find like a job with this restrict time. You're just gonna work for May 15 to August 15. So
That and jobs that accept visas as well.
yes,
That's-
and a
that's a
lot
pain
of
point for y'all for
bureaucracy.
sure.
A lot of bureaucracy to be hired, and then you have to work only for 3 months. So the best opportunity that we have is inside the university, and we're not seeing these opportunities. But I don't know what caused this.
Can I interject?
Of
I think this is a really good control study for anxieties that we all go through because let's just say I'm the control. My biggest anxiety, as crazy as it sounds, is what I'm gonna eat tomorrow. As far as just like what I'm gonna make. Not even that like I need the money. It's just what am I gonna make tomorrow? And then compared to everybody else's anxiety, mine seems incredibly small. And it's crazy how everyone from all sorts of backgrounds have such different anxieties based on the political stance of our current society. So I think that it's absurd.
I think that is because you're in your own country.
Yeah.
If you were out of your country,
That's why I
you would
said I'm
think
the
like
control.
us. Yeah.
As far as for like the control
But unfortunately,
substance.
who do you even channel all these anxieties to? Let's say in this department, with all these anxieties, who do you go to? Because if you have to go to the counseling, they're only going to say, "Oh, it's going to get better," but
Don't
who
worry.
provides you
you're
with
gonna be
solutions?
fine.
What is the solution?
I think the
Not-
issue with I've had this opinion growing over like the last years, but it's just that there's always a countless number of anxieties that can be had, but the amount of issues in which one has like individual agency on has like dwindled, or it's just so many more things become evident that are issues that realistically nothing you do really changes anything. Like you have no control over the situation, you feel helpless, which is bad. Because if it's a thing of an anxiety of a test, right, you can still study to take the test. Maybe you're not good at it, but your direct efforts are impacting, that event. But in the case of some of these things, it feels completely out of control, like out of your control, which is not a comfortable like situation to make peace with.
Thanks for all these wonderful examples, ideas, and sharing of your anxiety and your observation and comparison. This is awesome. Well, this is what we face, and that's the visa delay and those issues that impact our lives, international students and faculty. And about the research, also have comparatively more impact than ever before because of the heightened surveillance and attention. So increased monitoring cause the research project among different countries are getting more and more difficult. Projects are canceled because of the policy change. I think definitely couldn't go to a certain country to do presentation, had to do online, and because of the tension, and also fear for wrong accusations And stiff collaboration among scholars are also limited because this policy change, academic changes, exchanges, and working together, they are limited.
Are we being too pessimistic? Is there any optimistic reason to be positive?
Yeah, the positive side, like Dr. Molina said, I think only 3.5 years ago, right? If you count days, not many, like,
I mean, I don't want to sound pessimistic here. I feel like it's more just realism in the sense that realistically, the administration before this current one wasn't much better either. And then before that was the initial like apex or the initial like start of what the problems do we consider when they were created. I personally just feel like a lack of faith in all of the systems, just everything. So it is a very like negative view, but at the same sense, I don't know, because I don't feel like I have a way to contribute in saying how it can be better, and I don't want to be gloomy about it, but it's kind of leading to a perspective of just like muting it out now. Like I still follow and I still care, but at the same time, it's just like as an observer because what can I do?
well, I think the positive side is that technology is really different from before, even if you cannot travel and people can get online. And actually, you reach more researchers, collaborators
That's
that
true.
way.
Yeah, it's definitely much easier to. I mean, like you did a talk in Argentina last year. It's pretty cool.
Mhm. Yeah, that was wonderful. You don't have to travel. So using.
I wish. But unfortunately, we don't have funding, so
Well, there's
we'll do
a
online.
all positive and negative
Yeah.
side. It's emerging. A lot of time, emergence and emerging phenomena is not planned, cannot be controlled. It just happened. So how we deal with it, and this happens, and this and other things happen. So that's what we're facing, and increase racism. This discrimination that we also observe some of the negative impact and mental health impacts, institution gaps. So anybody want to share this? Any observation from this point of view?
Well, well, maybe not. That's maybe my very first few months in the US, but I haven't really experienced discrimination of that. So I think when I came in and I wanted to get a place to stay, and the only place that I was getting is, I think it's about 5 minutes away from here. I've forgotten the name of the apartments, and most of them were Indians. Funny enough, they were international students, but then they go like, "Oh, black person, nah, I think we prefer someone from India." I'm like, "You trying to be American? We all here, like, don't do that." But they're like, "No, we prefer Indians and no black person." Okay. I'm like, okay. So that was really tough. That was my very few months. Yeah. Then they were like, "Oh, go to McCallum. There are some black people. You'll be okay." Then I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." But apart from that, I haven't really gone through any form of discrimination. Maybe because I'm actually quiet and I'm
You mean immigrants discriminate too?
amongst themselves.
Yeah,
Yes.
they do.
Yes, they are even worse.
That's a deeper discrimination.
Yeah. I'm like, you're not
So
even.
do the Chinese like that?
I'm all
I have.
all I'm gonna
experience-
say is I've heard that
As a-
people from China are very racist.
As an
I
American,
think so.
Like
Chinese,
even more
they're
racist than
worse.
America.
like my experience in Italy was really funny because I look Chinese, but I'm not like from mainland China. So I don't speak Mandarin. Like I'm familiar with some of the culture, but
You look
it's different. I
Italian,
grew
you
up in
look
the US, and I
Chinese.
grew up surrounded by Italians. And so the first few weeks at my school, a lot of the Chinese students were talking with me because we had a lot of Chinese like from mainland China because we had a partnership with some schools in both Hong Kong and mainland China. And then at a certain point, they all stopped talking with me, and I found that very interesting. And I found out that one of the student association Chinese one had posted like a picture. They said he's not a real Chinese. He's infiltrating our ranks. Let's speak with him. And
He's a sleeper. He's a sleeper
was-
agent.
I mean, like
He actually speaks
I thought it
Italian.
was funny, but it sounds like very comedic, but at the same time, that's like I'm not even lying. This is what happened. So
That was in
it's
Italy, or
yeah.
you're studying.
What about in
economics finance.
Turkey?
Turkey was interesting because everyone thought I was Turkish. Because there's a lot of like border with like Kazakhstan and other
Kazakhstan,
countries in that area. There's a lot of Asian-looking, kind of like Asian-influenced countries,
I tell you, we are animals.
and it was funny.
What
'cause
color of fur do you have? Oh, you're a tiger.
It was during COVID, so I had the mask on. So, and I spoke enough Turkish fluently enough that no one thought any different.
That's amazing. How did you learn Turkey? I didn't know.
I was living with my ex at the time with her
Oh.
family, so I picked it up quite
Oh,
fast. It wasn't like fluent.
You had a Turkish girlfriend.
I had enough
Gobble, gobble.
to sound like with the mask, and it's just the interaction of like buying groceries that
Okay.
then I wouldn't understand anything else. But
How a Brazilian person looks like? Do you know? I know how to describe how a black people looks like, how Asian people looks like, how Brazilian people looks like.
Hmm?
How
Your
Brazilian?
complexion.
What kind of physical
Look.
element?
No, it's multicultural, so.
Yes.
I think you guys have
Make
this
no sense at
straight
all,
face.
this conversation
Yeah.
for me. Do you understand that?
There are so many different types in Brazil.
So many
Yeah.
freaking different types. And they are together. We don't have those sense of, oh, this kind of person is gonna be poor and this one is gonna be rich, this one is better.
Let's move
than
to
that.
Brazil.
Because we like a freaking mix. I have a black
Sibling.
sister. And for us, this is so normal.
Yeah, but that's in your country. But when you
Yeah.
step out,
Yes. So, but I this is a cultural shock that I was talking with Raya, because here you have like this segregation. No, I will just live with Indians.
Yeah.
Oh, they thought that I was Turkish, so that's why I didn't have problem. If you go to Brazil, you don't have any problem at all.
Country too.
You
Well,
always.
Turkey didn't have any problems with me being from the U.S., but I get what you mean. Like I grew up in New York, where it was also like
Yes.
very much
Yeah, I think it's a good
multicultural.
example.
And so-
Yes.
going to Italy. It was interesting because I had learned you don't really judge where a person by their appearance, because like the Chinese guy at the bodega could be the most fluent, Mexican person you've ever met.
Do you know what is really
But-
common in Brazil? You go to a Japanese restaurant and a black person is preparing the sushi.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is really common there. Do you know? For us, it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it.
I did it
Do you know?
I went to a Chinese restaurant, and this is it hibachi or something like that.
The grills.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was this black person that took me there. And then we met a black person preparing. My friend was like, no, we are not buying this. A black person cannot prepare this meal. It should be done by a Chinese man.
No, you're
Okay.
lying.
Yeah, it's different.
That's the thing.
That's like saying I paid for an authentic show.
Yeah.
What?
She's like, you can't.
I mean,
No sense at all.
it's like you're not supposed to be doing
Let's
that.
buy this thing. She's like, no, let's go. I was like, really? I'm like, okay, let's go. Because the person is black and she's like, oh, people don't make this food. It won't
Do you
taste
have any
good.
more slides?
We have 2 points to make, and then we're going to end this conversation. Funding challenges for international students. Unlimited eligibility. You have scholarships, you have fellowships, and you apply for, and you find out that it's only limited to citizen, then green cards, and that's kind of limitation that we're facing, right? Higher education burden that everybody, if you don't have a assistantship, you have to pay double, twice as much, almost, right? And research dependency, of course, a PhD student, you have to have funding in order to survive in a university here. Any comments?
No, I'm not getting too depressed.
I think the tuition one is
Bring the good
the
news up.
shocking one. Just the difference in like in-state to out-of-state
Mhm.
tuition, and the fact that all foreign, I think you have to pay if it's
Right.
out-of-state, right? Well, obviously, which basically just means if you don't have a scholarship, you can't do it.
So that's caused more anxiety. Social and academic isolation, Dr. Molina mentioned earlier already. Anything else to add?
On this barriers to collaboration, one of the things I've just noticed in this lab, so many students are surprised that I'm willing to talk to them. No, I'm serious. They oh, the door's open. Oh, what? I don't need an appointment. We can discuss ideas, and it's frightening how closed the doors are in this university.
Yeah, they thought it was normal, and he's not normal.
Well, I think that's more testament also just to like the system as a whole, less
Yeah.
than just UTP. I think it's kind of standard everywhere. At my school in Italy, I don't think I've spoken to a professor once outside of in the class, and even then, some of the classes you weren't allowed to speak.
Yeah.
So it's obviously it's a different system. They were much more strict, kind of dictatorial almost. But yeah, I think it's a system of like education as a whole, which specifically like university level and stuff like that.
Yeah, Molina's weird. I ran into him about a year ago. Never didn't know who he was, and he started talking to me. Talking about 15 minutes. Don't know what about. Don't remember what it was, but that's why I remembered his class. I was like, I saw his picture. I was like, no, that's the guy I talked to for about 15 minutes, 20 years, a year ago.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the first time I met him was at my first year presentation when he was there, and he recommended a book that I had to read, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But just like Dante was saying, back home, teaching and learning was like you sit down, you keep quiet, you don't say anything. The professor or the lecturer teaches, and then he's done. And then if you have any question, you raise your hand, you ask your question. That's it. So I am used to being quiet because I feel like that is respect, and so I barely talk. So when he even sent me an email to give me the name of the book and everything, I was like, how do I even get in touch with this? Like, what do I have to do? Because I still feel like I'm in my box where I have to be quiet, and he has to tell me everything. Then I go ahead and do it. But getting closer to him, I'm like, oh, this one is so cool. Like he has a lot of things to share, and he's like one of my best professors.
No.
Professors.
I remember when I first got here, I started putting the books out. And then you probably don't know the story, but there was this writer in San Francisco who wrote a book with a book title "Steal This Book." Just put it back after you read it. Yeah, and I said, look, just take it and bring it back, and people found that really strange. You mean I don't have to sign it out? I'm not reading it at the moment. I've read it 6 times. Borrow it. And I don't know.
Thank
I
you.
mean, we're getting into a much different area. Okay, keep going here.
Thanks for sharing the wonderful testimonies about Dr. Molina.
Well, no,
Why?
stop it. Flattery will get you an A grade.
They're telling the truth, not flattering. It's just the truth, right?
Well, no, but
And that's
that it's just that I'm at a point in my career when I want to have ideas with other people, and just I don't need to publish anymore.
Yeah.
No, I just want to help everybody in this lab publish, in this group publish, improve their resume, get a better job before they graduate. Okay, what's next?
I think this is the true spirit of education.
Yes.
That's the role model of the educators.
Yeah.
No, but I'm learning as much as you are, so I mean, it's, your anecdote about trying to find an apartment in India, in Texas, I mean,
That was shocking. I never heard people talk to you in person, in front of your face, saying that. That's so rude.
I know, right?
Right.
okay.
That's all we want to share about the anxiety, and thank you for your contribution and true stories about what you've been facing and what you're anxious about. And how do we get better? So this is the conclusion and a call to everybody. What can we do differently to make a difference?
Well, I think it begins with the discussion we just had this evening. No, I'm sure not everything we said was correct, but just sharing anecdotes and one of the things people always criticize me for is this watering hole seminar that we organize in this lab. And we keep inviting people from off campus as well as on campus, and people from every department on campus. But you're in the Bass School of Arts and Humanities. You should only invite those people. And so the whole idea that you divide things up into the tree of knowledge, I think I've given you this narrative before, science, mathematics, law, business, arts, humanities. Well, most cultures don't divide knowledge up that way. It's just arbitrary and a business convenience. It's not a logical thing. And then we keep mixing, biochemistry and neuroscience, whatever the hell, isn't neurology a science? Neuroscience. And we keep inventing these subdisciplines to the subdisciplines to the subdisciplines. And this week and the JSOM is just awful this way. They keep inventing these sub-diplomas, data analytics, something, ITMA, whatever that is, I don't know. So, I think, okay, let me just put on the table, Tina and I are working with Professor Robert Stern, who's a geologist. And so Anna C, what's her name, who's a student also in geology, they're mapping all the silos in this university. And it turns out there are about 1,400 of them. Now, some of them are easy to think about, the police department. They have their own building, their own captain, and so on. But then, all the schools, all the degrees. It's just frightening how many subdivisions to the subdivisions there are in this university. And so Robert Stern wants to use plate tectonics to bring the silos back together again. Maybe a volcano would be a good idea. Maybe an earthquake would be a good idea. It's an analogy. It's not a method. But no, seriously, Anna's making a map of the silos in this university. And one of the ideas that Robert Stern said, well, maybe we could use AI to connect the silos and the people wouldn't know. But I think that's what this lab tries to do. A lot of people just walk in the door to use the sofa, and I don't care whether they're a student, a staff member, or a professor, or what discipline they're in.
Don, do you have a comment?
No, it's just that cross-disciplinary focus, right?
And cross-generational now.
Yeah, across everything. It's when two perspectives can, the same way that our discussions here, we have different perspectives in life, we have different experiences, right? It's that same benefit of like traveling different places, or it's just experiencing different perspectives that helps you educate yourself on your own views of things, because obviously you only view things from your perspective.
Yeah.
So it's important to hear how other people approach things, ideas, And you don't have to take everything away from that, but it's that classic idea of like the artist and a scientist conversing, where the person who's not familiar with the scientific detail has a different approach that might be being disregarded by the scientist, and vice versa.
And learning all these in school is really helpful for the future. When we go to the real world and you can have to collaborate with people from different area discipline. And that really promotes the collaboration and makes the job easier. More effective. I think that's all for our topic on the anxiety of emerging university. So
I have a
Definitely not.
question.
go ahead.
So, you said, students, they should create awareness, there should be an action. How do we create the awareness? Because you said the challenges facing international faculty and students demand both awareness and action. So how do we create this awareness and what action are we taking?
Okay, so UTD just announced a new visa department
Oh,
on campus, I think this morning. I'd have to look it up. And so they're aware that they're getting deluged with questions, and so I think they've hired some more people. And so I mean, that doesn't help, but I think just, we're at the beginning of something, and so we over the coming weeks, let's not focus it on every week, otherwise we'll get too depressed. But let's identify things that are happening that we should pay attention to as part of emergent studies. Okay,
do you think the ISSO is doing enough? Does the international students, something, ISSO, they usually send a lot of emails.
Service officer. International students, service officer.
I don't know if they are doing the best. I don't know.
There are always room for improvement. And
Oh, yeah, right.
and we need to work on this and we need to speak up and take action. It might be different form, so there's a lot to do,
Mm-hmm.
definitely agree. So Dr. Molina, can we move on to
Yep.
presentations?
Yep.
Anybody want to talk about your project?
I create 2 more episodes, but I didn't record, so I don't have anything to present today.
okay, that's
We did a
okay.
lot last time. We had a lot
No,
of
I
fun.
did more, I just didn't record.
Okay, do you want to talk about it? Anything?
No, I think we can just discuss when it's recorded.
Similar. I recorded 2 more dishes, but I didn't edit them yet. I didn't have the time to get around to shortening them, because right now they're the raw files, which are like over an hour long.
Okay, and we'll look forward to know more about that next time. Belinda, anything you want to share?
Really, still on the same stuff.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Ryan's already shared his. Then I'll talk about the coming week. We finished this emerging university case study. We're going to move to the SYNEX, which is about the senior study. And we'll have 2 sessions about that, and probably Dr. Turner, Dr. Sir. Ryan, have a question?
Can Dr. Turner come in next week?
Well, hopefully he could, but we'll see. He is doing some medical examination now.
And I invited sitting Judge John Marshall to
Oh,
give
yes.
give a talk here, and he's available.
Excellent.
Yeah, he'd love to do it. We just had this paper accepted for publication, where he's really interested in, I think I've mentioned it 6 times now, but how there's now evidence that human attention span is shrinking compared to 30 years ago. And in particular, in the legal system, it means lawyers have to speak only for 15 minutes and really talk about the main points. because the people in the jury, just their minds start wandering. And they're not allowed to use cell phones, so it's not cell phone distraction. Anyway, so we but just got this article accepted for publication. Okay.
Great. Will he come the coming week?
I'm gonna have a meeting with him tomorrow
Okay.
and we can
Oh, we'll
finalize
find
it.
out. So let's be prepared. We have a session with Judge Marshall either the coming week or the week after. But either way, the next topic after, Judge Marshall's is the Senex, and there's a reading there, a paper led by Dr. Turner and Dr. Molina. So, glance through that and no other homework. Just concentrate on your publication. And hopefully you already finished the press release, right? Everybody finished?
Yep.
Okay, excellent.
Oh,
So,
if you finish, send them to me.
yeah, send it to Ryan and
That
we'll
way,
have it
that way I
on.
can present all y'all's next week.
Is it worth looking at the website now?
No, because I haven't, it's updated on my computer, but it's not updated on the actual thing. I just need to copy and paste the link. I can do that tonight though.
Okay. That's all for today, and you all have a wonderful night. We can be
Thank
early.
you.